The tremolo and the trill, the highs and lows of keyboard topography. In this session, I will present concepts to improve skills for playing tremolos and trills. Whether you are a student, teacher, or performing artist, these innovative ideas will help to broaden your awareness toward developing velocity, virtuosity, and tone without fatigue. The tremolo is defined in the Harvard Dictionary of Music as the rapid alternation of a tone and its octave or another harmonic interval, a third, a fifth. Tremolo in Italian means shaking or trembling. The trill is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as an ornament consisting of the more or less rapid alternation of a main note and note above it, fast or slow. Two notes, simply repeated over and over again with two different fingers. What could be so difficult? But if you ask pianists, tremolos and trills are often tense and uncomfortable. The topography. How do we play tremolos and trills? There are a number of approaches for these rapid ornaments. Whether it is a measured or a rhythmically free tremolo or trill will depend on the composition and style. Piano technique cannot be isolated from the interpretation of the score. For tremolos and trills, there are similarities and differences in the articulation and alignments due to the intervallic distances. Their similarity is that they both use single rotation. In Dorothy Taubman's glossary, single rotation functions to accommodate movement in opposite directions, such as required in a trill. The last note of a single rotation must finish straight, parallel to the keys. Their differences are in the hand and forearm position. Tremolos, as we said, are usually broken octaves, and they have their own hand position, supported by the wrist and elbow. Try to open your hand and let the wrist become the main fulcrum with height. Allow the main hand knuckles to be combed down and allow the piano to open the hand. Rigid knuckles don't allow the hand to open and minimize the span. Trills playing adjacent keys have a different hand position with a flutter of two fingers that are close together. They need the support of the main hand knuckle. So you will see a slightest quiver of the shaking wrist as well. And then you know that the rotation is functioning. So now you see that each have necessary adjustments that are not easily seen by the eye. Let's begin with the tremolo. Beethoven's Opus 13 Pathétique first movement, composed in 1798, Allegro di molto e con brio. So what we're going to discuss here is the single rotation, the palm and wrist position, and this is a measured tremolo. What's important here is that the tremolo is not individual finger action, hiding the 2, 3, 4, and isolating. Instead, you'll see the rocking or rolling of the hand and forearm. So it's necessary, like I said, to have the wrist support, especially for the smaller hand. What's also important is that you must have an elbow. Sometimes people are playing tremolos with a long arm, one limb, and that's very cumbersome. So what I would recommend in trying to learn this is to first try an octave without the tremolo. That way, I'm going to be able to see the two patterns that I have. And I'm going to then realize that I need to have a little more emphasis on my pinky because of the pulse. Beethoven was brilliant. He knew that if we had a cut time signature rather than the common time in the grave, that there wouldn't be so many accents. But we have to analyze. So I would think 4 measures in the beginning of the broken octave could be thought of as 2 measures repeated twice. Now, it feels very free if you understand the leverage system. The leverage system makes what most deem difficult simple and easy. The piano's responsive escapement, or what Taubman called the point of sound, allows us to quickly repeat a key without releasing the top. We do not want to release the key top, but we are going to ride like a surfer. And this way, we're going to be able to have a very fast key depression. And of course, it's going to depend on many factors, including tempo and dynamics. The next thing I have to remember here is because I'm playing in the lower register, my torso slightly adjusts and leans toward the left. And as the passage ascends, my forearm is going to be kind of right between 1 and 5, and I'm coming up. What's left to do is to shape the phrase. In the repeated octave, I would simply feel level and up. Measure 1 level, measure 2 up. Level up, level up. And I'm riding the keys. If you notice, my fingers literally have not left the surface. Then the next pattern is the scale. So you see I had white, white, black, white, white, black. That's going to require a forward shift on the white key before the black. And these are very subtle movements that the fingers themselves can't do. After I do those 2 groups, what's left is the chromatic. It's important because it has to get me back to the C. So one special clue here is silently get back to the C and see how fast the forearm must be in order to play well. And I'm not going to say, oh my goodness, from the thumb way down to the pinky, that's a very large distance, but rather 5 to 5. I'm going to move along to the second and last of my tremolos. This one is Liszt's Funerale, written in 1849. A rhythmically free tremolo, Adagio. Very ominous, under the ground, funerale. So what's interesting here, we have exactly the same tremolo on C as in the Pathétique, but 1 octave lower. And I also have this larger distance between the forte chord with the marcato and then this. So how it's different is that because of the distance, not only should my torso be moving down, but I have to stay straight with myself, meaning that as I go from the chord down, you see that I'm actually at an angle with the piano, but I'm straight with myself. If I try to be straight with the piano way at the bottom register, I'm pulling, as you can see, on my underarm, and my shoulder is going to be up and stiff. So this is another very important thing. It felt like I was miles away. So remember, be straight with yourself. Now I need power, okay? Remember, Beethoven was piano. This is forte. So first I'd like to drop my forearm weight. You can hear it. It kind of hurts. So I have a lot of power in my arm, okay? It doesn't really matter your body size. Now, the next thing is to think, well, if I drop all that weight on a key, it's gonna maybe have an ugly sound. So one of the things we do is we slow down the descent. If you think it's like it's a parachute coming down, it's fast, 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 and then right when it gets to the top of the key, the next thing I need to do, besides my torso going down there and feeling as though I have a shape, so I need to have a curvilinear. I can't go straight back and forth because after a while, it's almost like I'm getting dizzy. Instead, the curvilinear gives us a lateral and the arm just has a free flow. There are no rests here. So as I go here, over shape to the bottom, back. And I even think that my last thumb of the tremolo is almost hiking so that it propels to get to the chord, because there's no time to go up and lose it. We have to go up and over to the next spot. There are no rests. So that's really going to help so that there's no fatigue, there's big sound, and we play with ease. Now we're going to go to our trills. I'm going to demonstrate the trill with excerpts from repertoire with 6 combinations of trills from different periods of music. The first 4 examples will be based on the notes G and A. Each has its own unique pattern. Each will demonstrate a new concept. Pianists develop strategies to immediately be comfortable. So let's work chronologically and start with Bach. In the Well-Tempered Clavichord, Book 1, the G minor prelude number 16, BWV 861. Simply takes the measure 1 and repeats it at the middle range 1 octave lower. So what we demonstrated here is white key, 2 white key trill notes, and to avoid what we call a twist, the body has to adjust. Otherwise, I'm going to feel very crowded when I get here if I stay in the same body posture. By the time I get here, I almost feel like my hand is turning to the right and over here having a deviation and feeling twisted. So instead, I simply have to lean my body back. The torso goes back and is comfortable to play in the middle of the piano. Now, as I'm playing this with the rotary motion, I don't want clenched fingers, and I want all my fingers to kind of copycat the finger that's playing. I'm not going to isolate and play just those 2 fingers by themselves and have the others do something else. I'm not going to clench my fingers, as I said. So how do I get this very nice posture? It's very simple. I need to have the very nice arc of the knuckle, and I could just reverse cup my hands. Simply flip your hands over, and you'll see that you really have the right posture. Now what's left is knowing about what we call key spots. If I stay locked, a key spot would be like a pencil point on a key. If I'm staying locked on that spot, fatigue will set in. It's almost like one of those tongue twisters when you say something over and over and then suddenly the words change. So I don't want to be locked on the key spot. Instead, I'm going to shape, and I have momentum going on, free flowing. It's very, very marginal. The only time that it will look larger is if I start with the finger 1, which put my long fingers in the black key area, and then I switch to 3 and 2. Then I have to come out. The last thing is how to interpret Okay, most people are playing the 64th notes as I did. There is another very beautiful way that Glenn Gould did that I just have to share with you. Fermata and polyrhythm 64. So when it comes to the interpretation, if you feel comfortable playing the trill, you can really do anything that you like. But remember that my fingers are on such close contact with the key top that I could literally not even put a piece of paper between the surface of the key and my finger. It's like I say, riding the wave. The second example is going to be, again, with the G and the A. This time in Mozart's Sonata K545 in C major, in the measures 15 and 17, I have a very pretty trill. What's different about it? Well, it ended on an F sharp, so I need to forward shift. In other words, my forearm has to subtly move in. And I also have to show the breath at the end with a beautiful shape for the quarter note. So if I don't move in, I might group, and the ratio here would be 2 to 1 as far as 32nd notes in the right hand. And then I might have to either reach and lunge for that, or even if I use a 3 and 1, my second finger might have to kind of poke. You see a lot of the stuff in teaching this particular sonata. So what you want to do is make sure that you kind of ride the key, low, medium, high, and slightly change your key spot that I was talking about. And the very last F sharp, because it's a quarter note, can have a shape because it's beautiful. And then there's a rest. Very seldom do we see a rest, but Mozart was so vocal that this is just his way of making the piece sing. The next particular piece is the Beethoven Waldstein, the third movement, Allegro moderato. Anyway, what does this particular example show? Something we didn't have before. Playing a top melody simultaneously with the trill underneath. So this particular issue is interdependence. In other words, I have a light trill and I play the very first trill with the 3 and 1. As soon as the upper melody comes in, I change to 2 and 1. And again, I have to play so delicately just to the escapement to keep it going and not be locked. And then I need to feel as though you could singly play these notes to get the sound you want. Obviously, it's involving the unit that we talk about. The forearm is helping so much. Now, remember that what's happening here, oddly enough, it sounds hard, but it's just single rotation. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So somebody could say, how do you do it? So I remember, like so many teachers I've worked with always said, are you listening? And honestly, if you have the tactile and you feel the lighter and the deeper, I think that with the tools of what I'm showing you, it's really, really something that becomes fun to do and not grueling. We're going to our last example of G, and this time with A flat. This one begins on the G, and it's Schubert's Impromptu, Opus 142, number 4, measures 36 to 40. So, if you're wondering why it sounded so forceful, it is. Schubert put sforzando. So we have a sforzando, and it's on a thumb G going to the 3. So I would say first, when you're playing this, play the 2, play the interval together just to see the height that you're going to need. Now, this is an example where it's nonstop. There are no rests, and the register's changing. So as I have my first one, I could lean up to the top of the piano, and then I'm going to go down 1 octave, but I have to have it the propel from the F to the G, and then again up. So the body is helping with a lateral, and the thumb is going to need a very big prep swing, because this is kind of like the motion that you would use to flip a pancake. And it, again, allows us to play with such speed and no problem as far as facility. Now, what's interesting here is besides having this kind of forward shift, the fingering I'm using is what happens to be in most editions. 1 and a 3, all single rotations, 2, but I stay on my thumb, 1, 3, 1, 2. By doing that, the entire passage is single rotations. If I do what is popular in the ending, in many editions, it has 1 and a 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, causing the long fingers to not want to be stuck in the black key area. So it becomes a little cumbersome. So try to keep the thumb on G, and you'll see that it just seems to be easy to do and nonstop, because this is like a whirlwind in the scherzando style. The last 2 trills are going to be on C sharp and D sharp. Chopin's Barker roll, Opus 60, measure 84. So here we have double thirds. We haven't had double thirds before. So double thirds cannot be played with single rotations. They need double rotations. I'm going to show you what it would look like if I used single rotations. So I would first play to the left. Then if I play to the right, I want you to watch my elbow. Kind of looks like it's on a huge swing and not comfortable. So I can't go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So to compromise, many students or people learning this piece might play as though the fingers can do the job by themselves. And it feels stiffening. And even worse, if instead of playing the melody note with 5 and 3, with 5 and 4. Don't forget that 4 can be played beautifully like any other finger, but if I have a choice in the double thirds, I'm not going to be playing 5 and 4. I'm going to play 5 and 3, even for the spacing. If I play 3 and 5 for the 2 black notes, it allows my 4th finger to be in between and comfortable. So the other thing I have to do is have the legato on the beautiful melody, and the inner notes 1 and 2 ride the key, and they, in this case, almost feel like after they put the key down, they're sitting on the surface of the key, whereas the melody is lower and deeper into the surface. The last thing I have to do here is synchronize the 2 hands, because they have to know what each other's doing. I have eighths in the left hand, black keys. So for the most part, I'm going to do, because I have 2/16ths coming up, I'm going to put 30-second notes. Yatta, 4, 4, and 5 with the C sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's very hard to hear if you listen on YouTube what's going on, but I can tell you that this is the way that if you had it on slow speed, that you could hear what's going on as far as the interdependence of the hands. And the very last example, as I said, again on C sharp and D sharp, is from the Impressionistic period, Debussy's L'Île Joyeuse. He asks at first for quasi una cadenza. So here we have an option. You probably couldn't see it because I don't have an overhead camera on right now, but I'll tell you what I saw on YouTube and what I also was advised when I was learning this piece. That most people play the fermata C sharp with the opposite hand because it's kind of like a staying power to create the mood. But many people would play as written, all in one hand. A crossover after the thumb, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Others, and I saw a handful of them, would play no crossover. Left hand plays the C, and then starting with a grouping of thumb on B, thumb on A, thumb on G. So that's a different grouping, but it still has the same shape. Under and over, which just gives it a very lush sound. So you can see there's a lot of liberty in this freestyle trill. And my torso, as I play the first one, has a flashback to the Bach prelude, because Debussy decides after he's done it in this register to take it down for 3 more measures here. So very subtly, I'm leaning back. So I won't have any twisting or crowding. These are little subtle ideas, but very important in the comfort level of playing. So in closing, the basic principles of rotation and being aware of the invisible key spot locations enable us to play easily. The subtle hand and forearm positions I discussed are rarely included in pedagogical training, but are so vital to play comfortably. Tremolos and trills are not a bunch of fast notes. So you must figure out how many notes are necessary. If measured, they must also fit with the interdependence of the other hand. As pianists, we must emphasize the importance of how the keys are played to make beautiful music. Thank you.